Hi, I'm Dad.
And I'm Kristen.
And today we are going to drive and review the 2015 Hyundai Accent. Is it cool?
Or is it crap?
All right, the 2015 Hyundai Accent has a 1.6 liter four-cylinder engine with 137 horsepower, which is pretty standard for this type of car. It has four-wheel disc brakes and it has a 6-speed automatic transmission. This is the GL model. It's not the lowest of the low, but it doesn't have a lot of great features. It has quite small tires and rims, but it does have electric windows and locks, which I know the lower model has wind-up windows and roll-up windows and manual locks. So it's a little better than that.
Just keeping with the basics, this is obviously a four-door model. We've got a hatch at the back and we've got seats that fold down for a pretty reasonable amount of space.
Did you say anything?
No, what should I say?
This is what's great about this car is that it's a hatchback, which aren't hardly even sold anymore. So it has so much room in it. You can put, you can put a lot of stuff in it, including people. Okay, something like that.
What's great about this car is that it's a hatchback and those aren't sold as much anymore. This actually has a surprising amount of room and you can fit a variety of things in it, from your luggage to even people.
Ugh, that's pretty big, I'd say. Yeah.
I'd say we could fit more of you in there.
I think I'd find like 3 or 4 of me for sure. Maybe in a small refrigerator. Oh, what short person drove this?
What giant is trying to drive a small car?
Well, here we are. Interior is
Spartan.
It's Spartan, but I think it actually is quite stylish. It reminds me a little bit of the Mustang era where they had sort of the separate pieces, kind of front of each of the seats. It has a decent sized glove box. I mean, look how big that is. That's pretty big.
Fair enough. Yeah,
put
you
a
got
cat in there.
Fit a cat a lot of places.
Okay, fair enough. A large cat. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have, again, as we've talked about a little bit before, it has basically Bluetooth, which you can hook your phone up to, and you can use the buttons on the steering wheel here. It has cruise control. Again, this is a GL model. It could be one less, though I've only seen one L model in my life, and it is Matt's wife's car, or her parents' car. Has crank windows and manual locks, and she stands by that less things to fix.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
I agree. Like, I don't mind the shape of the dash overall. I will say the overall quality of a lot of the materials used in it is somewhat lacking. We've got a lot of hard plastics. This is a little soft, but does collect dust like crazy.
Okay, I've cleaned this today, and I don't know if you can see in the second camera there. I'll have a B-roll of it. It's full of dust. It's like a rubberized piece, but it's just terrible to clean. And I've tried different types of lint-free this and lint-free that, and it just doesn't work, and I kind of give up.
Yeah, so the materials are so-so. Again, the infotainment, like this, compared to a lot of other models from like the same year, like this is very much lacking. You don't have a backup camera or anything like that.
That's true.
You really you got your time, you got your radio stations.
It's basic transportation. It has cruise control, which I have rented cars without that, and hasn't been a whole lot of fun. And it's just a basic climate control, but again, less things to possibly go wrong with it, I think. It does have an armrest, which is interesting in that it slides forward so that you can, depending on how your seat is positioned, you can have the armrest in different positions. That's not bad. Back seat, pretty basic, no heated back seats, though it does have tunnels underneath the seats to put heat to the feet of the people in the back. So that part itself is okay.
Yeah. I think a definitive meh is accurate.
I think it's okay. And for what the car costs, they don't make cars like this anymore.
So the question on everyone's minds, Dad.
Why did I wear this shirt?
Yeah.
I like this shirt.
And then the second question on everyone's minds is, does it donut?
Does it donut? Does it donut? Well, I'll tell you, in the winter, it donuts just fine. It has an emergency brake that you can pull on, mechanical brake. And It's not, if it's wet enough, it'll also donut in the summer. So we really can't eat a donut today. It was okay
Because it should theoretically
it can
donut.
theoretically donut. So we hopefully will have a little piece of B-roll of it donutting about now. Okay, so in driving this car, since we own it, we have quite a bit of information about how it drives. And I have had quite a few sporty cars and sports cars in my life, so this is not one of those. And it was bought basically because our kids needed something to drive in the winter, or I need something in the winter and them to drive, so we kind of shared this when they were in high school, that kind of stuff. And you know what? We've had it for 6 years. We bought it 1 year old, and it has been, hate to say it, almost bulletproof. It's been, you know, we've had a couple of little tiny things.
She's been held together by tuck tape.
No, she hasn't. Okay, the bumper, yes, but that wasn't the car's fault. Matt, somebody drove over some snow, and maybe someone else in our family did as well, but not you, and cracked the bumper, so we had to get that replaced.
It wasn't me.
Well, I'll just let people think it was.
It wasn't. I'm a really good driver.
So anyhow, that's not the car's fault, but it is a little bit of the fault that it's really low to the ground. And so when we in the winter drive over places where other people have driven, I always find I'm plowing with this thing where other cars have cleared the snow. And so that's one drawback of this car. I'll give it right there. The second is, and you have a different opinion about this, I think it handles pretty poorly. Comparatively to the Fiesta that we had, which we'll review in another program, but that's a transmission disaster. But that thing handled. Oh, that was a really good handling little car. It felt tight. Steering was crisp, and the turn-in was good. And this thing just doesn't handle it. It just floats over everything. It's pretty boring.
I don't mind it. I do not mind it.
Okay, what would you say about that?
I agree that it's not exciting, but I find the steering responsive enough, and maybe it's just my recent experiences with shop loaner cars that don't even have power steering, but I've found it to be a perfectly slightly above average experience.
Okay. The brakes are pretty good. They're four-wheel disc brakes. Sometimes they have drums on some of the cheaper versions of other cars in this type of era. So I'm happy with that. We replaced the back pads, which was weird. Usually we replace the front ones, but the back ones somehow, maybe they got a little bit stuck or seized or something, but I've replaced those. That was pretty easy to do by myself, so that wasn't too bad. But the power of this thing, it just doesn't really want to go. It's 137 horsepower, and that used to be a lot of horsepower. I remember 1982 Mustang GT V8 had 160 horsepower, and that thing was a rocket. And this is 137, and it's kind of feels
and it's
like
probably, that's interesting because it's also probably accelerating less weight than the cars in the 1980s. They were on average heavier.
Yes, but they had less safety features, so some of them weren't. But definitely the Mustang was heavier than this car, and that thing went like a rocket back then. That was really, really fun. Shouldn't have sold that one, but it was my dad's midlife crisis car that he sold me. So it sounded good. So it's okay. It'll get you there. It's not gonna make any day exciting.
Yeah, I hear a distant buzz of some kind of saw. It certainly couldn't be an engine.
No, it doesn't have a very good sound to it, that's for sure. And why don't we just pull over here, let you drive. I'm going to pull into this parking lot over here. You haven't driven it for a while.
No, it's been a while since I've driven the Accent. We'll see if my opinion
But you know what? It has a lot of room. I got to say, it's a roomy car. The back seat is enough for carrying two other adults for sure. And that's one of its big aspects. And having but SUVs are really expensive. And this was a really cheap car. I think brand new in 2015, the car was only maybe $11,000, $12,000. And so for that value to what it's done, we've got 104,000 kilometers on here and literally have done almost nothing to the car. Okay, switch.
We should put the seats up.
Yeah, let's put the seats up. Oh,
So
why do you have this so far forward?
we'll see if I'm still in frame when I move the driver's seat up.
It'll be fine.
So, you know, you called this a high school car for me, but we only bought this in 2016, and I was already graduating from high school at that
Wait,
time.
what?
Yeah. As you may recall, I was 2 years out of high school. So this car actually came out after I graduated high school. So this was mostly a Matthew car, so I have not had as much opportunity to drive it as maybe some other family members in this household. So, well, my opinion is not based on a lot of experience.
Okay, you've driven it a few times though.
Oh,
When
I've
we've loaned
driven it,
to you.
exactly. I've driven it as a kind of a loaner car, but not kind of as a regular car. And again, I do not mind it. I find like the steering, again, like I'm shifting the wheel around and we're not getting a lot of movement.
Yeah.
But like, I don't mind that. It's easy. Like the steering wheel doesn't take effort to turn, which is a novelty for me, having a lot of loaner cars recently.
Yeah, in terms of technology, it's pretty weak on technology.
Oh yeah, it's if you look at the interface and compare it to a lot of other 2015, 2016 models, this is quite, it's on the lower end of what you get.
Austere.
Austere, practical, if you want to be generous. But it's unexciting. It has Bluetooth, but it doesn't have CarPlay, it doesn't have Android Auto.
You're probably wondering what I'm trying to dig up in the seat here. Well, it's a letter I got today in the mail. Hang on.
Wow, what's with that letter?
That letter is very disturbing to me. It's from my insurance company. You know what they told me?
They said, Merlin, you're getting too old. You can't
You
drive
mean Dad?
anymore. Dad, you're getting too old. You can't drive anymore.
No, that's what you would hope it says. It has to do with our insurance on our tent.
Which tent?
Well, our big tent, the one we slept in with you guys and in Banff and stuff like that, that tent.
Ah, okay, the 4-person
So they've
tent.
changed the policy. This is what it now says. If you get your tent stolen at night, we'll have no coverage.
The prop had me going.
I worked on that quite a bit.
When you look at the front, the facade falls apart.
You had not heard that one before.
I hadn't heard that one.
Got ya.
And you got my genuine reaction, which was really similar to my faked reactions other times, which is, ugh.
I know. So there you go.
Ah,
That's
there
the
you
dad joke of the drive.
It's a
Thankfully,
fresh
we
one.
got that over with.
You know,
Speaking of crashes,
Speaking of crashes?
this has a pretty good crash rating.
Tell me
It's
more.
a top pick from the IIHS, and almost all the cars built in this year, though, that we're going to compare in another little segment of comparison when we do all the other cars, when we do the voiceover. This is 4 out of 5, and most of them are 4 out of 5. None of them got 5, but as this car and every small car has, it's a driver's side left frontal hit is not great. And that's probably because there isn't a lot of metal or engine or anything to protect that side offset when you hit, let's say, for example, this guy coming right here.
Okay.
That don't do that. So hit like that tree on the right would be better. And then the guy on the left.
Do you want it totaled?
I don't want it totaled.
Okay.
It's a good car. It's hard to find used cars these days.
I hear that.
This has gone up in value since I bought it. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
crazy,
a great
right?
investment. Who knew?
Yeah, so it's been pretty good. Good crash test ratings. It's been reliable. This engine, see, Hyundai had some problems with their Sonata engines. A lot of those are on recall or extended warranties, and I have some friends that had to get new engines in their cars. But this 1.6 is very reliable. So this was, I mean, we looked at that when we bought it, but it was hard to know because it was only 1 year old. But now that we've had it and I've looked up information about it, it has been actually a really good choice for us, other than the fact I just don't like driving it. So, how does a 2015 Hyundai Accent rate? Reliability. The Hyundai Accents have been mostly reliable, especially after 2013.
There aren't many glaring issues, but more of a smattering of small, unrelated complaints, but no car is perfect. With this car with over 100,000 kilometers on it, it has only been in the shop for small issues, one being the cargo net behind the passenger seat ripping, might have been partly my fault, and one intermittent problem with a check engine light, which the code indicates as a leak in the evap system. It only happens twice a year when we have drastic spring and winter weather changes, and the code clears itself within a few weeks. 4 ice cream trucks. Practicality. This car's strength is its space inside. It is larger inside than most of the competition and has a hatch and fold down 60/40 seats. 5 adults can ride comfortably in it. Unfortunately, it rides kind of low, so it often scrapes its undercarriage over speed bumps, so go slow, and struggles through higher snow accumulations and can get hung up in drifts kind of easily. 3 ice cream trucks. Fuel economy. It's pretty good. It's decent, but it's a decent amount lower than some of its competition. It consumes 8.9 liters per 100 city and 6.3 on the highway. Most other vehicles in this class do better on fuel, but most have less horsepower. 3 ice cream trucks. Safety. This Accent has some basic safety features, including traction and stability control, but so does much of the competition. It doesn't have any backup cameras or any kind of warning systems for vehicles or people crossing behind or in front of you. It received good crash ratings with an average of 4 out of 5 stars with the NHTSA, but poor results in the IIHS because of limited safety features and the small overlap front crash test results, which almost all small cars don't do well in. 3 ice cream trucks. Performance. With 137 horsepower, the Accent has decent acceleration, but its transmission seems to be programmed for fuel economy instead of responsiveness. Its 4-wheel disc brakes work efficiently, but its handling could be characterized as stable but ponderous. It might be the most vanilla handling car we've ever owned. Slow steering response, quite a bit of body lean, and basically kind of a boring car to drive. Basic transportation. 2 ice cream trucks. Technology. Well, there's not much to talk about here. It has Bluetooth phone connection, USB port, heated seats, keyless entry. Canadian models, however, have built-in immobilizers, whereas the American models do not, and apparently are quite hard to ensure thanks to the social media and the Kia Boys TikTok Challenge Theft Challenge. Kia and Hyundais are the same company, so it's the same problem. 1 turd. Quality. For the price, this car isn't all that bad in terms of quality. The inside is styled quite nicely and it has a few soft touch areas like the dash. However, most of the plastics are hard and the materials are kind of cheap. Panel gap is reasonable on the body, but the paint is just okay, and the match between the painted plastics and the metal body parts isn't great. 2 ice cream trucks. Aesthetics. The 2015 Hyundai Accent is actually a pretty good looking vehicle, designed with Hyundai's fluidic sculpture design ethos. The higher models have good looking 16-inch aluminum rims, where our test car had the more ubiquitous tiny 14-inch steel rims with hubcaps. The interior dash has some nice swoop design elements and still looks kind of modern. 3 ice cream trucks. Value. These cars were quite inexpensive when new and have held their value quite well. COVID, of course, has skewed that significantly, and currently they are on dealer lots for close to what they cost when they were new. A few years of new models and subsequent trade-ins should build the availability of used cars, and their pricing should decrease. Because these cars are quite reliable and practical and styled reasonably well, there's decent value here, so I'm giving it 4 ice cream trucks.
With used car pricing, most of these are within a few $100s of each other. The one caveat is the Honda Fit, which generally commands a few $1,000s more.
The Hyundai Accent boasts a 137 horsepower 1.6 liter engine and four-wheel disc brakes. Its fuel economy is decent, has good reliability, spacious interior, and is quite affordable. Some negatives include slow acceleration, sloppy handling, lots of cheap materials, and the lack of technology.
The Ford Fiesta has a 1.6 liter 120 horsepower engine and basically outhandles anything in this group. It has great gas mileage and decent power. The problem is the interior is quite small, particularly the back seat, and pretty full of cheap plastics, though the styling is quite good. Ford Sync is standard. Its boat anchor, however, is the automatic dual clutch transmission, which has had numerous recalls, technical service bulletins, and it never really got a legitimate fix. It's a bad transmission, and Ford has had many lawsuits against it because of the poor design. Owners say it jerks, kicks, delays in downshifts, shudders when stopped, and generally is a piece of junk. Europe got a different, more expensive version of this transmission, which has been very reliable.
The Toyota Yaris is a little underpowered. With only 106 horsepower, it gets the best gas mileage compared to the rest, and has very good reliability. Its interior is the smallest of the group, and its plastics are about the cheapest. Its infotainment center is easy to use. It has the least horsepower though, so feels a class lower in some respects to the peers in this test.
The Chevy Sonic has 138 horsepower and is pretty agile and enjoyable to drive. Its seats are quite supportive and space is average compared to the rest of the group. Reliability has been a little spotty with issues with the engine, transmission, and electrical. Fuel economy is lowest, about 5 miles per gallon lower than the rest. Its interior materials are also pretty cheap. The 2014 turbo model has decent power, but poor handling, transmission, and generally looks sporty but isn't.
The Honda Fit with a 1.5 liter 130 horsepower engine is pretty peppy. It has great fuel economy and better interior plastics than the rest. Honda boasts a unique design called the Magic Seat, which allows the back seat to be shifted into a variety of configurations. The Honda also has a rear view camera and an available touchscreen infotainment system.
Well,
Not bad.
okay, not bad.
I mean, I call it the turd.
That's
And-
not really fair, I think. Poor guy has had a complex since you called it that 6 years ago.
What can I
So
say? It's
overall, I mean, it's a nice shape. And for us, it's been super reliable. It gets 50 miles per gallon on the highway, over 30 in the city. We've only had a couple of things go wrong, a tiny little piece of rust. We get that crazy little warning in spring and fall with something to do with the gas and some sort of valving, but that goes away. So I can't say I like it, but it serves a purpose. For you kids that drove it, it was good and it was reliable. And except for the fact that the bumper is way too low and somebody, not you, drove
It wasn't
over,
me. It really wasn't.
Drove over some snow, which was about this high, and it cracked the bumper. So that's really been the only issue. I wish it was taller off the ground for Winnipeg winters. But what do you think?
I named this car the turd 6 years ago. The Cool Car Crap Car show, essentially in essence, started because of this car. I can't not give it a turd. Despite the arguments you make for, if it was in a different color, I probably wouldn't. But this particular car, I give a singular turd to in honor of its name, the turd.
Oh, can we be taken seriously if we give it turds? I'm gonna have to try to be the devil's advocate here. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to even say, but the only thing I think is not good about it is it has a cheap interior. It doesn't handle fantastically. It's super uninteresting to drive because I really like kind of sporty cars, and for this was always a winter beater, and for that it serves its purpose with winter tires. It's just a little too low, but you can fit a ton of stuff in here and it's reliable. It's got pretty good crash test ratings, and so I'm going to take it off because it doesn't handle it great and it's a cheap interior. I'm going to give it 3 ice cream trucks versus your 1 turd. I know, we're not going to agree on this
one. Can it
one.
be a combination of turds and ice cream trucks? 'Cause
I don't know if there's any rules. It's our show.
Okay, I do give it one symbolic turd for its name, but overall, for the reliability and you know, fiscal responsibility of this car, maybe it deserves one additional ice cream truck on top of the turd.
Okay, I think, yeah, giving it the turd as a honorary turd is probably fair. Now we can probably agree on that.
Okay.
All right, so that's the review of the 2015 Hyundai Accent. It's a good used car. You can find something, again, you're gonna have to check your own information about accidents or recalls or, you know, VIN numbers and that kind of stuff, because you can buy a crap car that's usually a good car.